You ever get a report card and you might have like 1 or 2 failing grades on there and the rest are A's and B's, but your parents just stay focused on the negative. And you're like, but I got A's and B's though. Well, that's what I'm choosing to do this week. Instead of focus on the negatives, let's focus on the positive of wrestling.
No, maybe that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Break It Down with Brian H. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. This show is brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm. Do yourself a favor right now. Go to iTunes, subscribe, drop a review. If you're on YouTube, drop some comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the bell on so you don't miss an episode. And anywhere you get your podcast, we're there. Subscribe, right? Give us the review. Now, coming to you a little bit later this week, just because I was at SmackDown Live on Tuesday right here in the great city of Baltimore, Maryland. And I have to say, they put on a show. And for that, I'm going right into the top rope.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
Now, in this week's top rope, I'm going with Rusev beating Daniel Bryan. And people may say, wait a minute. You're the biggest Daniel Bryan fan, and you're putting Rusev on the top rope for beating Daniel Bryan. You're doggone right I am. Who saw this coming? I was sitting there with my brother, Corey, from Wrestling Marks of Excellence, which you can find on Thursdays, Fox Sports Radio. We were sitting there, and when it happened, the 1, 2, 3, and Daniel Bryan lost to Rusev, we was legit shocked. Wow, did this just happen? And, we started talking, and we said, you know what? That makes sense. Keep the Miz and Daniel Bryan away from each other. Do not let their first showdown take place at Money in the Bank inside a ladder match. Also, keep Daniel Bryan safe. But I thought it was great. Just Rusev, people worried about him being screwed over, saying, oh man, Rusev's going to leave the company because they're not doing anything with him. That's why you got to be patient. And one thing I noticed, and it reminded me, was Rusev just lost to The Undertaker. And as you can say, doing the job or restoring the prestige to The Undertaker, what better way than to pay, give him a bonus than putting him in the Money in the Bank? So I asked this question. Can Rusev win it this year? Only time will tell. And I said, let's look back in 2016. Dean Ambrose just had a hellacious match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. A few months later, he was the WWE champion. So will we see the same thing? But let's go. We're gonna talk about Backlash a little bit. We saw Daniel Bryan beat Big Cass in Daniel Bryan's first match back into the WWE, first singles match. But one thing happened. What happened was, after the match, Big Cass proceeded to beat up Daniel Bryan. Now, I admit, I haven't gone back to look at the broadcast, but my superior wrestler intellect would tell me that Daniel Bryan wasn't 100% going into that match with Rusev. So it makes sense for him to lose. Maybe that's the story. You guys out there, tweet me, let me know if you was at home watching. So, and I have to say, the crowd was lit. When you heard half a chance Daniel Bryan, half the chance Rusev Day. And it was very, my boy Antonio Banks said that it didn't come off well on television. He was there. He went back and looked at it. But he said, look, that crowd was hyped for Daniel Bryan. So we saw that. But here's another candidate who could win. Here's my pick. If you go on thebrianhwaters.com, brought to you by Amazon.com, where you can go on my website and make your purchases, you would notice that I said after Sunday, give the Miz the Money in the Bank briefcase. Now, I was on my way for my job. I was on my way to D.C. for a special event. So, instead of going to sleep during the ride, I said, I'm going to write. I was thinking about wrestling. I said, I got something brewing on my head. And just as we pulled up, I had just hit publish. And I said, give the Miz the money. The Miz should be the briefcase holder. This is the year. But now I'm confused because after seeing the reaction Rusev got, knowing that, hey, this guy's been in the company a while, and now could be the time to put the strap on him. I don't know. I really don't. This Rusev could be the Money in the Bank winner. So I'm going to ask you guys, and maybe I'll put this a poll on the Wrestling Realm, at Wrestling Realm Twitter. Who should win the Money in the Bank? Is it Rusev or is it The Miz? Me personally, you ask me right now, I think you go with The Miz. The Miz is the high hand. But then again, you really don't need to because he's so hot. So now you could go with Rusev because Rusev, that could be the extra push that he needs. And that's where I think I go. So I will, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. But yeah, Rusev is the guy. Put the give him the briefcase. Let him cash in. I would have him cash in on a heel. There's no way you can deny it. Rusev is a face. Even if you have him cash in on AJ Styles, as much as the people love AJ Styles, you're automatically going to get a huge cash in when you pop unless you're Baron Corbin. And people are going to love to see it because it's different. It's just the annual thing. So put the belt on Shinsuke. Maybe Rusev cashes in on him and becomes the WWE champion. Speaking of Shinsuke, he's made it clear he's not done with AJ Styles. In fact, he said, no, I'm not done with you. And these two are going at it. Now, they had a crazy match. Again at Backlash that ended after both of these guys, because there's no disqualification, hit each other below the belt. Once that happened, if you're a man out there listening, that'll take you out and take you down. It hurts you so hard your stomach start hurting. Yes, ladies, that's possible. So we saw AJ and Shinsuke go out there, and after that happened, double count out. Now I was disappointed because I wanted to see a finish, but two, I was just like, why didn't they make a no disqualification, no count out match? That used to kind of be a thing back in the day where if the match was no disqualification, it was no count out. However, in the days of the video games, I started noticing you had to kind of turn both options off. So, nonetheless, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, and for those who wasn't there, they had a dark match on SmackDown that ended in disqualification with AJ Styles winning. It was for the WWE Championship after 205 Live went off the air. But these two, instant chemistry. It's a match that people didn't think they would see in WWE. And shout out to my boy Terrence. He says he wanted this story all along. I think this was done by design. I think they wanted to sell the dream match and then have Shinsuke turn heel. Why? Because it's always better to be the number one heel than the number two babyface. So I think that was done by design. I don't think it was an accident. It's like, man, it's not working. No. People were going to pay to see AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. That they did, and wow, they might not gotten the match that they wanted. It was still a great match at WrestleMania. If you watch wrestling and understand wrestling and psychology, you saw it was a great match. They just had better matches down the line. So with that said, I'm going to take our first break.
People, what is up? This is the Shark, Sean Williams, host of The Shark Attack, soon to be on Podbean, and you are listening to my good friend, Mr. Wrestling Intelligence Personified, Mr. Main Event, the franchise player himself, the impact player, the man with so much flair yet so debonair, my good friend, Brian H. Waters, right here on Break It Down.
That was the Shark, Sean Williams, coming back to you. Make sure you check out his podcast on Podbean. Make sure you check him out on the Facebook. You can join this group. It's called the Shark Attack. So, then back into the show. Let's move to the women. We saw Ember Moon defeat Ruby Riott and Sasha Banks to qualify for the women's Money in the Bank. Do you guys think Ember Moon can win this thing? She just came up from NXT. It's not abnormal to see a woman come from NXT and into the WWE Women's Championship picture immediately. We saw it with Sasha Banks. We saw it with Charlotte Flair. We saw it with Asuka. You coming up there, you winning the title down there, and you coming up to the main roster, you're a big deal. So, can she win this? Time will tell. Let's move on to SmackDown. Carmella beat Charlotte Flair at Backlash, and she beat her when Charlotte, went for, tweaked her knee, and Carmella got the 1-2-3. I call that a clean victory, and then she's going around bragging she beat Charlotte Flair. People may say, okay, so why is there a need for a celebration in the UK? Let me explain that. She just beat, in my opinion, the greatest women's wrestler of all time. But not only she did that, after everybody trolled her for beating her the way she did to win the title, she went out there and successfully defended the title. Now, that's a reason for a celebration. You just beat wrestling royalty. You beat a Flair. 1, 2, 3. That's a reason to celebrate, especially when you're going to a country of royalty. But on SmackDown, Charlotte defeated Peyton Royce, so she's going to qualify for the women's Money in the Bank. And you best believe she's coming for that title. We also saw Mandy Rose defeat Becky Lynch in Mandy Rose's debut match. Here's a fun fact. Mandy Rose won her debut match in NXT, her debut match on Raw, and now her debut match on SmackDown. Who would have thought that? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. And I know people say, what's going on with Sasha and Bayley? Oh, well. But also, on the pay-per-view, Nia Jax defeated Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss is rumored to have surgery. Nia Jax is on video saying Alexa's faking her surgery. But, I thought they had an incredible match. Now, while I enjoyed their match at WrestleMania, I actually thought this match was a little bit better. Great story being told. Alexa Bliss really knows how to me, in my opinion, get the best out of Nia Jax. The story that's told there also, from a wrestling standpoint, strictly wrestling, is Nia's carrying more weight. The longer the match goes, the worse for her. And they just watching that, I really liked how that was emphasized, because you saw Alexa Bliss trying to run around. You saw Nia Jax a lot of times getting tired, and she was able to get that 1, 2, 3, but she had to work for it. So I'm going to take another break. Be right back.
What's up, good people? My name is Mikel Ramos, host of your favorite sports podcast, Roaming the Airwaves, Rolling with Ramos, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by The Wrestling Wrealm.
All right, we're back. That was Mikel Ramos. You know where you can find her. Check out on SoundCloud. Search Rolling with Ramos. She is one of the best women's hosts in sports today. And I'm not just saying that. You can get a great opinion. And one thing I love about her show is she numbers them and names them after players who wore the jersey number. So the real Dwayne Allen and I were on episode 32. That was the Magic Johnson edition. So, I tend to like when people be creative. It's something different, There's a lot of stuff out here. People competing with podcasts and stuff. They don't have to compete. Let's be real. Most people are recording podcasts once a week. And there's 7 days in a week, 24 hours a day. You're probably woke 16 of them. You probably have 8 to 10 hours of listening time, depending on what type of job you do, depending on whatever things you're into. Guess what? There's no need to compete. There's enough time. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm going to give a shout out right now. View from the Top Rope, Tag Me In Bro, Talkomania, Broken but Glorious, The Brocast, Talking About Wrestling, or as they say, Talking About Podcast, This Podcast Kinda Banging, Pardon My BS, Wrestling Marks of Excellence, ESPN The Plug, Maybe I'm Crazy, Smart to Death, Something to Wrestle With, PWP Nation, No Rules Podcast, Listening with K&N, Kofi and Jesse, Heated Conversations, Different Flavors of Tea, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, sometimes What Happened When with Tony Schiavone, sometimes the Steve Austin Podcast, sometimes Jim Ross Podcast. So you say, and guess what? That's just to name a few, because I'm pretty sure I left out some. So to my fellow podcasters that I listen to, I apologize if I left you out. My point is, there's a lot of podcasts out here. So what's the point in complaining? Oh, nobody listens to my podcast. So I get more listeners than you. Just have fun. Just have fun. I mean, those are the ones I name. And then you see the ones you hear on the show. The Shark Attack. The Flex Zone. Wrestling Marks of Excellence. Listening with K&N. You know, those are my podcast partners. And there's more coming. So, back to the show. Back to wrestling. Seth Rollins, best wrestler in WWE. Saw this on Bleacher Report. Do you believe it? Let me know at Brian H. Waters at Wrestling Wrealm. Because I don't. I do not think Seth Rollins is the best wrestler in the WWE. Is he getting back to where he once was? Absolutely. Because, let's be real, when he came back, he was not sure what he was. One minute he was burning it down. He was Monday Night Rollins. And he was Iowa something. And he was a Kingslayer. But he just wasn't the same. He didn't gain that steam. Now, sure, he's going out there putting on 5-star matches. That's all good and fine. But guess what? Like I was just telling my cousin, this is not the NWA. This isn't the territories. You can put on 5-star matches all you want. What can you do to entertain me? And to me, I have a real big problem with Seth Rollins for what he did in his feud with The Miz. He said, he backtracked his statement after The Miz owned him, told him that to be the man, he had to have that busy schedule, and he loved it. Seth Rollins says, oh, I never said you didn't work hard, but you did. You said, oh, this, that, and the other. So, no, I'm not. Nah, homie. I'm not sure about him being the best wrestler in the WWE. First of all, there's a guy named AJ Styles who's hold the big belt, as they used to say, the WWE title. Say what you want about the Universal title. It'd be nice to have it back. But at the end of the day, it's the WWE Championship that's got the company's name. And I know they said they're equal. SmackDown is the house that AJ Styles built. He's doing a great job at it. And then you got The Miz. I mean, if The Miz was the Universal Champion, Raw would be must-see television. I would even go as far as to say those shows would be equal, regardless of who was the top, because he makes any belt he holds prestigious. And it took The Miz a while to get back. When he main evented WrestleMania 27, I would have thought that would have been it. But he said on Table for 3 that he would main event WrestleMania once again. And I thought it was the funniest thing I heard. Like, yeah, okay. But guess what? Next year, the main event I want to see in New York is The Miz versus Daniel Bryan. So, yeah, I'm not really sold on Seth Rollins being the best wrestler. You know what? Let's move on to our Tapped Out.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
All right. So I guess you know what my Tapped Out is this week. But I got to do it because it's a part of the show. And that is Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe closing Backlash. Now, you can agree with something, but still, no, you could disagree with something, but understand it. And you might say, what do you mean? So, I understand why this was the main event. I just disagree. Like, I understand that the story they were trying to sell us was the fact that Roman and Samoa Joe had this long withstanding rivalry. And because Joe was going to SmackDown, this would be it. And this was the final battle, no pun intended, between the two. But when you got a guy like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura battling for the WWE Championship in a very personal matter, you got to close the show with them two. So, Roman and Joe, if you didn't see it, let me save you the trouble. Samoa Joe beats up Roman a lot. Roman wakes up, hits him with a spear. I think it was he hits him with a spear. 1, 2, 3. It was over. That's pretty much the match. Like I said, shouldn't have been the main event. But, hey, that's what they did. Let's just hope Roman can recover. But I don't know how he's going to. So Monday Night Raw, we saw Roman Reigns go up against Finn Balor and Sami Zayn, where the winner would earn a shot at the Money in the Bank briefcase. They would be in that match. And guess what happened? Jinder Mahal caused a disruption and caused Roman the match. So now it makes you wonder, what is Jinder doing? Is he jobbing out the Roman, or could he be a potential top heel? And this is me playing devil's advocate. Could he be a potential top heel going after the guy who they want to be the man? Or is it just that is the only guy left for fans to boo louder than Roman? I don't know. I hate to see Jinder do the job to Roman because he was so great on SmackDown. Regardless of what people think, he was a great heel. And no, his wrestling may not have been the best, but it wasn't the worst either. We look at the 50-plus WWE, the 50 WWE champions, Jinder Mahal's wrestling skills was not the worst. I can guarantee you that. And as a matter of fact, I challenge people to find worse wrestlers than Jinder Mahal. Tweet them to me at Brian H. Waters, or comment right here on YouTube or iTunes. So there you have that. Jinder Mahal, Roman Reigns. I guess that's where we're headed. Let me take another break.
This is Glenn Thomas with the Wrestling Marks of Excellence, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H. Waters, brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
Shout out to Glenn Thomas. Make sure you are subscribed to the Wrestling Marks of Excellence on iTunes, and make sure you visit at foxsports1340am.com. Can't wait to see what Glenn and Corey got to say this week. I had a chance to talk to both of them, so I always like to see what they have to say and the dynamic that those two, and the chemistry those two have together. But, let's talk some New Japan. We got Okada going up against Kenny Omega for the IWGP Championship in June. Fans, is this Kenny Omega's moment? Will Kenny Omega finally get the job done and become the new IWGP champion? Only time will tell. Chris Jericho also made his return. Jericho's just having fun. He's going to face Naito, but Jericho's just having so much fun with wrestling. Word came out this week that he was supposed to, WWE contacted him for replacing Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 34. But he is, being his own brand. When you look at him, he's in New Japan, he was at Wrestle Kingdom, and he was at the Greatest Royal Rumble. He's doing his thing, and how can you hate on that? Once he was the best in the world. He has a lot of names he's been over the years, but he is the greatest Intercontinental Champion in my opinion, until the Miz passes him by, because that's going to happen. But he'll still be top 5 without a doubt. I think he'll be top 5 for years to come. He's put on some of the greatest Intercontinental Championship matches, and I can't wait to see what happens at the next New Japan show. Let me talk to you about 205 Live. If you missed it, go out of your way and check out Buddy Murphy versus Mustafa Ali. These guys put on a heck of a match in Baltimore. And the fans that stuck around, because, everybody didn't, but the fans that stuck around was definitely in for a treat. And I have to say, they were into the match because you just didn't know who was going to win. And Buddy Murphy he's out of this world. You know what? I say this as I'm looking at the Celtics press conference. Buddy Murphy is the Al Horford. What Al Horford is to the Celtics right now. And I say that because he just stepped his game up. Now, Al Horford, if you're familiar with basketball, he's supposed to be the third star of that team. It's going to be built around Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Those guys are both hurt, and now you see Al Horford. And these guys are one win away from the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. But, yeah, Buddy Murphy has been doing his thing. So, let's move on to NXT. So one potential matchup you have at the next TakeOver in Chicago is Velveteen Dream taking on Ricochet, which I think they'll book that match. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. Pardon me. The Celtics did advance, looks like, to the NBA Finals. I clearly wasn't watching. They won by 2 points. I haven't been paying much attention to sports, folks. But, you know, I'm going to squeeze that in there. It's because they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals to face the Cavaliers. Here's the rematch. But, yeah, I mean, wrestlers are so good right now. Why would I pay attention to sports? I mean, my sports I get is from the podcast I named earlier. The Flex Zone, Listening with K&N, Rolling with Ramos, Maybe I'm Crazy, and ESPN's The Undefeated, The Plug. That's where I get my sports information from. But, yeah, so back to NXT. We have Velveteen Dream. He more than likely will take on Ricochet. We'll probably have Shayna Baszler taking on Dakota Kai, which I'm not liking that at all. Why is like Shayna Baszler's the champion? Why is she stalking Dakota Kai? I don't get it. And somebody inform me, please, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you stalk her? You already have the title. What would you possibly want from her? Like, it's confusing. But that'll probably happen. And, of course, Shayna Baszler's going to win. But we also have Johnny Gargano taking on Tommaso Ciampa in a street fight in Chicago. That match is going to be the match of the night. These guys have been telling a great story, and this comes full circle a whole year later. And then Aleister Black will take on Lars Sullivan. I'm not interested in this match. Adam Cole is a better North American champion than Aleister Black is an NXT champion. Yeah, I said it. You don't like it? Tweet me at Brian H. Waters. So before we get into this week's news, we're going to take our final break of the evening.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Kelsey Nicole Nelson, host of Listening with K&N on Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. And I want to make sure you are listening right here to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
All right, that was Kelsey Nicole Nelson, host of Listening with K&N. Make sure you check her show out each and every week. I believe she's on twice a week right over there at foxsports1340am.com. And you can go on iTunes to check her show out as well. Now, let's go into some news and rumors and innuendo. So, Enes Kanter, folks, says that he will consider a WWE career after retiring from the NBA. That's interesting, you know, big guy, 6'8". I guess the Performance Center has people wanting to come to the E. We also, if you didn't check it out, check out the Table for Three with AJ Styles, Shane McMahon, and Kurt Angle. You will not be disappointed. And guess what? Spoiler alert. They even show some TNA footage match between Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. Also, because of that, the Global Wrestling Network app has seen a spike in downloads. So, really cool. Good gesture there by WWE to show that, because if you subscribe to the Global Wrestling Network, you can get a lot of old school TNA matches back then when TNA was like really, really on top of their game. So, guess what? It's time for Wrestling for the Culture.
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week.
Wrestling for the Culture, make sure you go to thebrianhwaters.com where you can see articles and interviews, and every week there's a new edition of Wrestling for the Culture brought to you by Amazon.com. Now, this week, unfortunately, Brandy Rose revealed that she was injured in Japan. Matter of fact, she broke her clavicle, but guess what? She's a warrior. She finished not one, but 2 matches with that. Figured she was just hurt. She'll get it looked at. Come to find out, the x-rays revealed she had a broken clavicle. Goes to show you type of warrior she is. We saw Harlem Heat get inducted into the Cauliflower Hall of Fame. Congratulations to them. Speaking of Harlem Heat, Booker T spoke on Hulk Hogan on his podcast, Heated Conversations. And he said, you know, the question was presented, should Hogan be back? Booker T says, guess what? He's not going to say anything bad about Hogan. You know, forgive him. Let's move on. After all, it was Hogan who spoke up for Booker T and Stevie Ray and said WCW should put the money behind those guys. Ronnie Nicole won the Resistance Women's Championship this past weekend. A couple of days ago, depending on when you're listening, Devin Nicole graduated from college. Devin Nicole is a wrestler. Her and her husband, Raphael, I had a chance to interview them. That's available on BrianHWaters.com, my portfolio website. Go in the interviews tab. You'll see I had a chance to interview them. It's my first time interviewing a wrestling couple, which was really cool on paper. But the thing was cool is that they were in this reality show. And, you know, a lot of times wrestling isn't really into the crossover reality shows. We're seeing it now with Total Divas. But at this time, they were on, kind of like with Brandy Rose is, they were on a show that wasn't about wrestling. And they were just happened to be wrestlers. That was their occupation. The show was about couples I should say it was actually about women, I should say. Sorry about that. The show was about different women, but we saw them on there. So, and last but not least, Bianca Belair. If you've been paying attention, you'll know she's just continuing to be dominating NXT. Like I said, it looks like Dakota Kai is going to be next in line for Shayna Baszler, but let's move on for that. Let's get Bianca Belair. Hopefully by SummerSlam weekend or even Survivor Series weekend, she will be the NXT Women's Champion. It's time to go from the realm.
And now for this week's questions from the realm.
All right, from the realm, we got all questions from the Shark again. Shout out to him. Always support. So guess what? Let's get started. And question number 1. You know, we know the Money in the Bank briefcase, since there's only 2 matches, one for the men, one for the women. That means it's interpromotional. So his question is, can the winner go for any belt? I would think so. I mean, the briefcase is green for the men and white for the women. Why not? You know, could we see the Miz cash in on Brock Lesnar? Could we see Finn Balor cash in on AJ? Only time will tell, but it did sound like from the way Paige was saying, she needs that Money in the Bank briefcase. She needs to have as many representatives in. So it sounds like they have to stay with their brand. Does there need to be a tag team Money in the Bank? I don't think so. I think, you know, it would be different. It would be weird trying to see 2 guys cash in. You know, obviously you can beat both of them up, but I just think that's just too much going on. How big of a deal is it with people walking out on Roman versus Joe? Can we expect the same if it's Roman and Jinder closing the show? Think we could expect the same. Not gonna say it's a big deal yet. I think if anything, a big deal, it just lets everybody know that Roman is not the guy. Yeah, clearly the guy's Braun Strowman. It's time to put Roman to the back seat. Bottom line. So that's where I think we are with that one. So in that case, I guess you would say it's a big deal because why is Roman still around? You know, especially if people are walking out. It's one thing if they didn't, and it sucks because the match wasn't that bad. I just didn't like the way it was booked necessarily, like him being Superman, but you know, there was some cool spots in there, and for them to just walk out is, well, you know, people paid their money. They saw the match they wanted to see. So I think that's an issue. It's like, be careful what you put on that close the card, because if people came to see AJ Styles, what's the point in them sticking around? Especially you thinking New York traffic, and even if it was Chicago or LA, you thinking many other factors. People are hungry. They sit there for these shows a long time. And it's not fair to say if you don't like, you can go sit there, don't go. No, that's not fair to say at all. So, yeah, I think it's a big deal. Who would benefit more from a Money in the Bank briefcase, the Miz or Braun? I think the Miz would. I think it's kind of a given that Braun is going to hold that title. To me, him climbing the ladder to get the Money in the Bank, no, he doesn't need to. I mean, I don't think a giant needs to have the Money in the Bank. I think a giant can kind of take care of their own and then cash it. I mean, then win the match. I don't think they should need a Money in the Bank contract to be slickster, quote unquote. And last but not least, of the 3, who will have the breakout year in NXT? Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, or Adam Cole? I have to go with Adam Cole, baby. Right now, he's the only one wearing gold. He is making that North American title look like the most prestigious title on NXT. Undisputed, right? They look like the Four Horsemen. They're just on top of their game. And, I mean, for goodness sakes, they got personality out of Roderick Strong. Now, he did have that personality going into there, more personality he had before. But right now, they're firing on all cylinders. And that is the reason why Adam Cole will have the breakout year. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. I appreciate, as always, you taking the time to listen to Break It Down with Brian H. Make sure you head right on over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, drop me a 5-star rating, and drop a comment. The ratings are nice. I appreciate that. Drop a comment. Help the show climb the rankings. Same with YouTube. Help the show climb the rankings. Get more views. Pass the word along. I know you're sitting there. If you're at work, you need something good to listen to. We got you covered. Not only listen to this show, but also listen to some of the old shows. Check out the Wrestling Wrealm. When we talked about controversial figures, when we talked about best cage matches, check all that out. The real Dwayne Allen and I, we bring to you wrestling from a superior wrestling intellect, and we just have fun doing it. So, till the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.